Good morning, 2019 Fall BUSN 1360 Software Apps for Business Students. Today we will be calculating your near final grade using Excel. In other words, we're not yet at the end of the semester, so this would not be a final grade. We are nearing. We are now entering November, and so we're nearing the end of the semester, so this would be your near final grade. This will be our project in class today, Wednesday, November the 6th, 2019. And as usual, the part that you don't finish, you will be required to do as homework. As we get started, here's an important note. In this exercise, you will apply your knowledge of Excel, formulas, and functions to calculate your near final grade. Since you do not yet have all your grades, some grades will be estimates that you will use to complete this assignment for submission and grading. Later in the semester, some students may want to return to this spreadsheet to update it with more actual grades as they are earned. This will be your option and will not be collected or graded. Only the in-class project that you will then complete for homework, where grades are estimated, will be required, again, for submission and grading. So we're going to walk through it. This part of the instructions may be familiar from when we did the midterm grade. I encourage you to pay attention because I'm also going to add some additional instructions. Please play this video in small sections. Pause the video frequently so that you can complete each step. Rewind the video as needed. I will be available to assist students who need help. If you do not complete all steps of the video in class, you will complete the steps as homework. Okay, so again, if you do not complete all of the steps of the video in class, even though you will submit this file for your in-class work, we always have something to submit at the end of every class. Okay, you will submit what you've completed in class at the end of class, but you will also complete the entire project as homework. The completed Excel spreadsheet for calculating your grade must be submitted into the Calculate Your Near Final Grade with Excel assignment Dropbox by tonight. Now, right now, if everybody is working in class and you all have been great about doing that, I will extend that to give you the week to complete it. This will be an in-class announcement for which you are responsible, so please pay attention for that. To begin, create a folder on your flash drive called Near Final Grade. I'm going to stop and do this first step now. When you insert your flash drive into your computer, it will typically open up in a window. And this is my flash drive here. And you can see I still have the folder on here, Midterm Grade. If you do not know how to open your flash drive, recall that we have done this in class and that I showed you on the Midterm Grade video. I'm going to close this. Down in the search box, type here to search. I'm going to type PC. I'm going to click Computer. And then along this left side, you should find your flash drive and you can open it. Now, we were asked to make a folder named Near Final Grade. I can either click the new folder icon or simply right-click New Folder. Near Final Grade. Now, locate your Excel file, which started with your last name and then your first name, midterm grade, and open it. Use Excel's Save As feature to save it in the new folder Near Final Grade with the name, your last name, your first name, and then hyphen Near Final Grade. Make sure as you work on this assignment that you are working in the correct file, the one that has your last name and your first name hyphen near final grade, and that you are ready to begin work. I am going to show you that step. If you right now are thinking, but wait a minute, I don't have that file, I would ask you to be patient, because I do have two options, kind of backups that you can use. Notice it says, what if I don't have my first midterm grade file? And so give me just a moment and we'll go through those options. So following these instructions, I'm returning to my flash drive. Here's my midterm grade. This is the previous file. My fictitious or pretend student is Anna Apples, and this is her midterm grade file. I'm going to double click that to open it. You may remember this, hopefully. It looks familiar. File, Save As. Now, kind of you can browse. I'm going to click this midterm grade. This is the current folder. But of course, I do not want to save here. I want to save in the new folder that I created. Along the top, this tells me, I'm in the midterm grades folder on my USB drive. I can click to return to just the USB drive. At this point, I see my near final grade folder. I'm going to double click that, and I'm going to save this with the correct name. So I need to modify. One click selects the whole thing. Click again, delete, near final grade. Last name Apples, first name Anna, hyphen near final grade that I am saving in the near final grade folder on my flash drive. Now at this point I am ready to begin work, but what if I don't have my midterm grade file? There are two options available to you. One is that you can retrieve that file from pause if you did the midterm assignment, okay? So I just want to, I've given you some information on this in the past, but let me show you this again. I have pause open in my browser, and if I look under assessment and then assignments, now you may recall, here I am with Word, that when we did that midterm grade assignment a couple weeks ago, it was not on this first page. We had to go to page 2. And then I had to scroll down, and it was here at the bottom, calculate your midterm grade with Excel. And here's where I submitted that file. So I'm going to click on that, and here's my file, and I can click my file, and I could save it as we did before. I would have to do this only if I did not already have my midterm grade file. I'm going to cancel this because there's no need for me to complete this step, because this is only if I don't have that file. Now, what if the reason that you don't have the midterm grade file is because you were absent from our class that day, or for some other reason you were not able to complete the assignment? If you did not create an Excel file for your midterm grade, then you may use the sample file that I have provided, and you should understand that the numbers in the file do not reflect your grade. If you want the numbers to reflect your grade, then you must do the additional work of updating the numbers to reflect your grade. Again, this is only if you are going to use the sample file, because you cannot find your midterm grade on your flash drive, or you are unable for some reason to retrieve it from pause. Okay? What am I talking about here? Let me return to pause. I'm going to go back to assessment and assignments. Now, it seems to remember, as it usually does, that I am on page 2. And so let's pretend I didn't have this, and I did not have my midterm grade file. In that case, you will see that I have provided you with a sample midterm grade file. You could click this and you could save it into your folder, and that way you would be able to participate in our project today. Now, again, I have my midterm grade file, so I don't need to do that, but that is something that is available for you. With that, I think we're ready to begin our work for today. So, I'm in my last name, first name, NearFinal grade file. And, just to recall, what we've done. At the time that we started this, we were just beginning Excel, which means that we had completed the Word assignments for our class, but that's all that we had completed. We had some of our extra credit assignments, and remember, if they're extra credit or bonus assignments, then we earn points, but we were not required to earn any points. So this is how we denote that. The points possible is kind of the required, right, points. You received bonus points for creating your username in My IT Lab. Those were bonus points, so 0 were required. And then we summed those values so that we would have that. We did the same thing with our word quizzes. We entered our actual scores from pause, and we summed those up so that we would again know the points earned. And each one of those quiz assignments is 10 points, and we summed those up to know that we had 40. And then for our subtotal, we could see that B13, which is this 32, divided by C13, which is 40, and then we formatted this value as a percentage, which is why you do not see it multiplied by 100, because Excel does that as part of the formatting, to understand that our quiz scores were about 80% in my particular case. Yours, of course, would be different. We looked at our in-class assignments. We recorded our scores from pause. This is the points possible for each assignment. Again, we summed, and again, we divided and formatted as a percentage. And so we proceeded through the assignment that way for simulators and for cases. For these assignments that are in yellow, these were estimates, or you could say guesstimates, of the grades that we thought we were going to get. So, I think actually as we did this assignment, I had managed to complete those grades so that you could have your score. So that actually might be a real grade for you. Perhaps the word badge at that particular time was an estimate. If so, these are some of the things that we're going to update today. And then just in terms of helping you finalize this review, we created a grand total, and the grand total was adding all these subtotal values. So this 198, as you can see in the formula bar, and if I click here, notice how Excel helps me by identifying, in fact it's color-coded, all those values that were included. Whenever you have clicked in a formula, you need to be very careful because it's possible to accidentally modify that formula. To get out of the formula, I recommend that you either hit the escape key on your keyboard, upper left corner, or this is another way of canceling this red X. It looks like delete, but it's simply to cancel. And that takes me out of the editing mode of that formula. But again, we did that for the points that we earned, for the points that are possible, and then we could understand that we had a 90% in the class. In my case, your number would be different, by simply dividing B40 by C40, and once again, we let Excel convert that to a percentage. All right. But now we are nearing the end of the semester. We're in November, and this is the last full month of the semester, although we do go into December, and you can certainly look at the Southwest College calendar for that. If you do not already have a student handbook that includes that calendar, then I encourage you to go to Student Activities, which is where you had your student ID badge created. It's in the Ferris building across from the bookstore. And keep one of those, ask them for one of those free student handbooks and keep that with you. That's a wonderful resource. All right, I'm going to return to pause. And I want to explain that this is where you will complete that assignment. Notice the due date. I already have that as through November 12th. So as you can see, this is about the middle of the month, November 12th. So you will have a very good estimate of your grade in the class if you choose to keep this worksheet current. And of course, by completing the assignment today, which is what is required. I'm going to scroll back up to the top, and if I'm going to calculate grades, one of the first things I need to understand is what the syllabus requires. So I'm going to go to Content. As I look through here, Syllabus, Schedule, and My IT Lab. If you have not already, please click that. And when you do, then you will see a link to your syllabus over here to the side. You could scroll down the page, but if you look at these links across the top, this one says Assessment and Grading. I'm going to click it, and it takes me to directly to that part of the syllabus that we're concerned with today. Now, at the beginning of this portion of the syllabus, each assignment is explained in great detail. And I say that to you, but I am sure that you are already familiar with that, because for all students, for all classes, the syllabus is something that you, of course, would want to be familiar with. It's what guides the course, it's the course organization, and skipping this information would make you uncomfortable in the course. Now, I'll also say it is very normal to refer back to this frequently. I know you take multiple classes. I know I teach multiple classes. I very frequently refer to my own syllabus. I wrote this, and yet I want to make sure that I'm comfortable with the details, as I'm sure you do too. So I encourage you in all your classes to keep your syllabus handy. So in the beginning, as they talk about the SLO pretest, you may remember that. You may remember that I actually gave you that as homework, and I gave that to you as bonus points. The same thing with this MyIT, creating your MyIT user login. We did that in class. Nick Umberger from Pearson came, talked to you about that, made sure we didn't have any problem. He provided you with technical support information. We talked about some of the key details. But each one of these assignments, and I'm not going to read through them, but each one of the assignments, look at this as well as time limits, the scoring is explained in great detail, helpful video links. But of course you're familiar with this, so I'll continue on. I'm going to scroll down. Now here is the point values used in the method of evaluation. And so you'll notice, of course, this is where that SLO pretest is bonus points. My IT Lab, bonus points. Creating your login is bonus points. And then we start to have some of our required assignments. Well, let's just make sure we have this in our spreadsheet. Well, SLO pretest, here it is, and we talked about how that is bonus points. If I go back to the syllabus, My IT Lab, creating your user login, bonus points, and that's where we have that set up. Going back to the syllabus, what about the post-test? Now, we're going to take this at the very end of the semester, in fact, on our last day of class. And this is going to be 45 points. And if you were to look through here, I don't want this video to be too long, but if you look through here, SLO post-test given in the last class. This quiz contains 15 multiple choice questions. The purpose is to assess your knowledge as we complete the class as it relates to the identified student learning objectives for this course, which are of course listed much earlier in the syllabus, and we talked about those the first day of class. Students earn 3 points per question, 15 questions, 3 points, for a total of 45 points for completing this assignment. When you're given this test, you'll have only one attempt, which is necessary to preserve the integrity of the quiz. You must be present in class on this day. This quiz cannot be made up, and the student must be present in class at the time the quiz is started to earn the points. Students will not be allowed in and out during the quiz. You must be present and ready to begin and end the quiz on time. Okay, so just a brief note about this. I will give you a study tool to help you with this that I do typically talk about in November. So, stay tuned for that, and I'll point it out as part of this video. So this video is a way that I can deliver that instruction. Okay. What we know is that it's 45 points, and we also know we have not accounted for that in our spreadsheet. So I want to account for that early here, right up here towards the top. So I need some additional space in order to make that happen. Now, when I insert a row, something that you may have already learned is that it takes on the formatting of the row above. So if I'm going to insert a row, you know that you put your mouse over the row number, not over here in the cell. There are so many ways to do this, but this is going to be your more efficient method. Put your mouse over the row number, in this case row 8, right click, that's with the right button, insert. See how it copied the formatting so that it's filled in? And I really don't want that. So I'm going to undo, and I'm going to instead go down to row 9, and I'm going to click to select that row. You know that the entire row is selected because you can see the lines going across. Now remember, the purple shading is not the best way to determine that because this cell is not purple, but it is certainly selected. I know that from the green bars that go around. With my mouse over row 9, I'm going to right click and insert. And that gave me one row, which is not quite enough. I need several more rows. Now I could keep repeating this process, right click on row 9 and then choose insert. But I think maybe 2 more rows. So I'm going to select row 9 and row 10. See how I click, hold your mouse button down, drag, release. Keep your mouse on top of the rows. Right click, insert. Because I had 2 rows selected, 2 new rows were inserted. In cell A9, I'm going to type SLO test. Since I know my goal is to come over to cell B9, I'm going to press tab. Now at this time, I don't know my grade yet, right? And kind of the scheme that we've used so far is to color that in yellow as just an indicator, to ourselves that that's what that means, is that this grade is going to be a guesstimate. Alternatively, if you instead want to add a comment, you are certainly welcome to do that. I'm just going to keep this basic and keep that yellow formatting on there. In cell B9, I hope I make a really great score. The questions are 3 points apiece. There's a total of 45 points. If I only missed one question, I would have a grade of 42. So I'm going to type that. I'm going to hope the best for myself. I know that the points possible for this assignment are 45. And I'm going to hit enter. Now, at this point, this assignment is kind of hanging out here in limbo. It's not following the same format with this, of the dark category bar here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to select A7. Oh, I didn't create a subtotal here, did I? I'm sorry. Instead of A7, let's do A16. I'm going to select A16 across to D16, keeping my mouse on top of my selection, right-click, copy. Click in cell A10, right-click, and I'm going to paste. And I'm just going to use this very first paste option. Now, obviously these numbers look a little funny, hopefully to you as well as to me, right? How can we be summing a cell 42 and come up with 57? So we need to make a little adjustment here. I'm going to click in cell B10. As I look on my formula bar, I can click in there and look at everything it's adding up. Well, that's not right. At this point, I only need to add up this one cell with the value 42 in it. But Excel has done me this favor of putting this really nice selection border over the cells that it's adding. And I can put my mouse over any one of these corners. Do you see how the corners have little notches? I've got to get directly over one of those corners. When I do, please observe the shape of the mouse. It is a double-sided arrow instead of a puffy white arrow. It is a double-sided arrow instead of a four-sided arrow. If you've got that correct shape, double-sided arrow, press, keep your mouse button held down, drag, release. At this point, your formula bar should say equal sum, open parenthesis, B9, close parenthesis. When it says that, simply press the Enter key on your keyboard. Now, we also need to verify that the formula in cell C10 is correct. And when I look up here, even though the value is correct, I can see that it's including too many cells in the range. I'm going to use that same process. Move your mouse over the corner, double-sided arrow, press, drag so that only the cells that you want are selected, release. Your formula should say equal sum, open parenthesis, C9, close parenthesis. Press the Enter key on your keyboard. Now that these two formulas are correct, I want to verify that my formula in cell D10 is correct, and it is. Remember, I can either hit the Escape key on my keyboard or else cancel to stop editing that formula. That's a nice change to our spreadsheet. Let's save our work. So what's next in our syllabus? The pause in-class quizzes. As I read across, it says that I'm going to have about 110 points that I need from this. Each of those assignments is 10 points. There are 12 of them, and I have one drop grade. To begin, we're simply going to make sure that we put all 12 quizzes into our spreadsheet. We'll come back towards the end and address the drop grade. Here's why I point that out. If there are 12 quizzes and each quiz is 10 points, 12 times 10 should be 120. But I have 110 here. The reason that this will total 110 when we're done is because we have one drop grade. So I don't want you to be concerned if you see that math error, but I do want you to be aware of those numbers, because part of using Excel, as well as everything you do in school and work and your general life, is that critical thinking where you push back from the forest and you look at that tree and you say, does that make sense? And you may be saying to yourself right now, that doesn't make sense. And that's simply because of the drop grade. So if you were thinking 10 times 12 is 120, how did she get 110? That's because of the drop grade, and we will address that, but I do need to do some other things first, so please be patient. So let's look at the quizzes. When we started this, we only had the 4 word quizzes. Now we have 4 Excel quizzes. We also have 4 PowerPoint quizzes. So I need 8 more rows in here, new rows. And I'd like to have a little bit of space, so I might even insert a blank row, which would make for 9. Okay? Okay, how should we do this? Well, I want to insert that new blank row right here at row 16. And I know I'm going to insert 8 more rows for quizzes plus 1 line for a blank row, so 9 new rows. I also know that Excel will pick up the formatting of the row above where I'm inserting. So I am going to start at 16. It's going to pick up the formatting from 15. I'm going to insert 9 rows. So put your mouse over the 16, press the mouse button down. That's 1 row, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Release. Now, as long as I don't click anywhere, these rows will stay selected. I'm going to keep my mouse over the row. It can be any of these row numbers. And right-click. Insert. If you have something different, undo, pause the video, watch the steps, and repeat them as I have performed them. In cell A16, I'm going to insert my label, Excel Quiz 1. Enter. Excel. Now Excel is trying to repeat that for me. I'm going to keep typing because I want to put 2, Excel Quiz 3, Excel Quiz 4. Enter. I also have 4 PowerPoint quizzes. PowerPoint Quiz 1, PowerPoint Quiz 2, PowerPoint Quiz 3, PowerPoint Quiz 4. And then I simply have a blank line to allow a little space. It just makes things a little easier, in my opinion. And since I'm leading the tutorial here, we'll have a blank row there. Save that because that's nice work. Now, what else can we fill in easily? Well, I know that each one of these quizzes is 10 points. So why don't I go ahead and fill that in? I could certainly type it, but why don't I simply select cell C15? You are familiar with this fill handle. When using the fill handle, the shape of the mouse helps you to understand if you have the fill handle properly selected. If you see puffy white plus sign, that is not correct. If you see the 4-sided arrow, not correct. It must be a thin black plus sign. Being slightly off will change the mouse and will have the wrong effect. With your mouse over that fill handle, press, keep the mouse button held down, drag. Notice that Excel is telling me it's going to fill the cells in with the number 10. That's exactly what I want. And release. Save my work. But what scores did I actually earn in Excel? I'm going to return to pause, and the syllabus opened in a new tab. See up here where it opened in a new tab? So if I return to the original tab, I can view my grades, as you well know at this point, assessment grades. This is where we were looking at our grades earlier. See, I don't have my post-test grade yet. That's okay. We've guesstimated a 42 for that. We have our word quiz grades. Now, this is my pretend student account, and I clearly have not entered in grades for myself for all this, which I should have done. But for Excel, I'm just going to assume I had zeros on those two. That's what this shows. So whatever your Excel grade was for quiz 1, type that in. For me, it was a 0. Maybe for you it was a 10. I hope so. For my second Excel quiz grade, I also got a 0. You should use your grade. What grade did you get on the Excel quiz 2? Type that grade that you got here. For Excel quiz 3, I got an 8 out of 10. I'm going to put that in. And for Excel quiz 4, at the time that I'm making this video, we actually haven't taken it yet. And I don't want to have all zeros listed here. So I'm going to say I studied really hard and I got a perfect 10 out of 10. You put whatever grade you got. Now, as I make this video, as you work on this assignment, we have not yet started PowerPoint, so we don't know what our scores are going to be on those quizzes. Why don't we follow the pattern that we've been following and select those cells and turn them yellow. Now, notice that the paint bucket has a yellow bar underneath it. That means it remembers that the color to use is yellow. If you are clicking on this little arrow, you're wasting time because you're going to find the color yellow, which Excel already has found. So just simply click the yellow bucket. Let's save that. Now, I'm once again going to guesstimate my scores for this. There are different ways to guesstimate. Kind of 3 are, what are your quiz grades usually like? Do you usually have 7s, 8s? Then perhaps you could fill in 7s and 8s because, if history tends to kind of predict, and so you could say if that's what my grades have been, that's probably what I'm going to do. Now, let's say you love PowerPoint, you have experience with PowerPoint, maybe your quiz grade will be a little higher. That's one way, is to guesstimate the actual grade. Another way is to do a best case scenario. I'm going to get a perfect 10 out of 10 on every single assignment. And you can certainly enter that in here. And if you do, then I would encourage you to also put the work in to make that happen. It means spending time with the book. It might mean quizzing yourself on concepts that are written in the book from the reading portion. Do that. That's a great goal, and I encourage you to work hard to achieve it. A third option is worst case scenario. You could type in all 5s. Maybe you just say, what if I just do terribly, and put all 5s in there. The beautiful thing about Excel is that you can do all of those scenarios one at a time. Go through and put actuals. Go in and put the best case. Go in and put the worst case to see how it impacts your grade. At this point, I encourage you to maybe put something that you think you will actually earn. I think I'm going to make 8s and 9s. Maybe I'll make a 7 and then maybe another 8. That sounds like realistic scores. I'm going to scroll down. Once again, for our in-class assignments, at this point at the midterm, we had only done word assignments. Now, just like we did with the quizzes, we're going to add 9 rows. Before we do, let me come back up here. I missed a really important step, didn't I? Remember how we had to correct the formulas here? Well, I don't know. Do you think that these numbers add up to 82? I'm going to tell you a little quick way to check. When you select these numbers, see how I've selected? You select yours. Your numbers will be different. Look down here in this status bar. Look how it gives me an average, a count, and a sum. And it actually tells me that the sum is 82. But you know what? Earlier we noted that the value can be correct coincidentally. The cells being added may be wrong, so we need to check. Let's click in cell B25. I see these are the cells being summed. I'm going to click in there and let Excel verify for me the cells that it's adding. Good job. Since I'm editing that formula because I've clicked in it, I need to cancel. Let's check this one. This doesn't look right. In cell C25, it says it's summing C12 through C15. If I click in there, for some reason, it simply did not, expand the range of cells that it was adding. Put your mouse over any of the four corners. In this case, it makes sense to put my mouse over the lower of the four corners. Again, make sure you do not have puffy white plus sign. Make sure you do not have four-sided arrow. It must be, in this case, this double-sided arrow. Press, drag. Notice that your formula has been updated. When this is correct, simply press the Enter key on your keyboard. That looks a lot better. Save the work. Double check that your percentage is calculated correctly. B25 divided by C25. Here's where I asked you to remember that 120 points in the syllabus should be 110 because we have not yet taken into account the one drop grade, and we will. Please be patient. Return to the grades. Now we're ready to go to this next category. So just like before, we have our Word assignments, we're going to have Excel assignments, and we're going to have PowerPoint assignments. We should know that from our syllabus because we're working on lead and follow. Each assignment is 10 points, 12 workshops, 1 drop grade, right? So let's go back to Excel. We already have 4 assignments entered in. We're going to add rows for 8 more assignments plus 1 blank line. It's going to copy the formatting of the row above it. So I'm going to start here at 32 because this is where I really do want it inserted. I'm going to actually scroll up just a little to give myself some space. With my mouse over the row, not the cell, but the row, not the cell, but the row, click, hold the mouse button down. This is 1 row, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows. Since I have 9 rows selected, right-click over any of those selected rows, insert. You're going to now add the labels. In class Excel 1. I'm going to move that out of the way. Class Excel 2. In class Excel 3. In class Excel 4. In class PowerPoint 1. In class PowerPoint 2. In class PowerPoint 3. In class PowerPoint 4. Enter. At this point, we know all of these assignments are 10 points each. I'm going to select cell C31. I'm going to move my mouse properly over the fill handle, thin black plus sign, press, drag. At this point, whichever grades you know, let's say that we know our Excel grades, you would want to look and pause. Here's our lead and follow grades. There's Word. Well, what did we get? Okay, so for my Excel lead and follow 1, I have a 0. I hope you have a really good score there. For my Excel lead and follow 2, I got a perfect score. You should enter your grades. So if you need to pause the video, go ahead and enter the grades that that you know. I'm going to make up a few grades. Of course, we have not started the PowerPoint chapters yet. I'm going to select those. I'm going to use my notation of making those yellow. I want to save because I've done a lot of work. And you know, this is our in-class activities. I certainly hope you have a 10 out of 10 for all of these grades, because if you are present in class, if you are working with the class, and if you submit your work, then you should have a 10 out of 10. Right? Of course, we don't want to move on like I did last time without verifying the formula. So here we should be summing up all of our in-class work. If I click inside the formula, Excel verifies to me what is being summed, and that is correct. You can hit the Enter key on your keyboard, or sometimes when you're working with the mouse, it's easier just to click this check mark. Now, I can see once again my formula, C41, is probably not correct. I click inside the formula. Excel shows me only these cells are being summed. I'm going to put my mouse properly over this special handle. Double-sided arrow, press and drag. It should read C28 through C39. Press the Enter key on your keyboard or click the check mark. Once again, we have not yet taken into account the drop grade, so this will be 120. Your number may or may not be 106. It will depend on your grades, and it should reflect your grades because I assume you want to know where you stand in the course, which is the purpose of this exercise, as well as applying your Excel skills. Verify in cell D41 that the appropriate cells are being referenced. Scroll down. Now we come to the simulators. And hopefully this process is becoming very familiar to you. Press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right click, insert, Excel Sim 1, Excel Sim 2, Excel Sim 3, Excel Sim 4, PowerPoint Sim 1, PowerPoint Sim 2, PowerPoint Sim 3, PowerPoint Sim 4. These are 10-point assignments. At this point, hopefully you have completed your simulators. You're going to look in pause to get your grades. Let's see, I have an 8, a 9, a 0, and I've got to make one up there. We have not yet completed the PowerPoint simulators. I'm going to mark those in yellow. Probably a good time to save our work. I'm going to estimate probably similar grades. How about a 9, an 8, a 9, maybe a 10 on the last one. I need to verify my formula. That one looks to be correct. Never assume, always want to double check. This one looks to be wrong. I'm going to correct it. I'm going to verify my percentage. X for no change. If you've made a change, you need to make sure you hit the Enter key to accept that change. One more time with our cases. press, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, notice it did copy the formatting, and at the time that we did our midterm grade, I think I had just posted your Word Case 4 grades that morning, so you may or may not have had that one in yellow. I want to make sure I remove the yellow, leaving it only for the PowerPoint, so because we haven't done PowerPoint yet, so I'm going to select cell B63 through B67, in other words, through Excel here. One of the commonly overlooked colors or lack of colors, now I have to change, so I need to use the arrow this time. This is commonly overlooked, no fill. See how it removed the fill? Now I also do not want fill right here on my blank line, so I'm going to select cell B72. See how the paint bucket remembers? I don't need to go through all those arrows, just click the bucket. Part of using Excel, using Word, using PowerPoint is becoming faster as you use it. Okay, these are 20-point assignments. Let's fill that in. Have we saved our work? Let's do that. And please take a moment and fill in your Excel case grades. If I go to pause, go down to find the case, this is where I give you you're going to have to scroll down because I give you a lot of the scorecards, detailed feedback. And so please, pause the video, go get your grades. I see I haven't been posting for my pretend student account on that. So whatever grades you have earned, please, put those in. Of course, we don't know our PowerPoint grades. Please estimate those. At this point, verify your formulas. Now, if you can't see, you don't want to click, you want to scroll. Okay, you can also use if you have a button on your mouse, that one looks okay. Since I'm not making any changes, cancel. Here I need to fix this. Since I made a change, either enter on your keyboard or the check mark. Verify that the correct cells. Now, once again here, we have a total of 240. And as I look at the syllabus, it says that my cases should be 220, not 240, but 220. These are 20-point assignments, 12 of them, but we have not yet taken into account the one drop grade. So what you're seeing is that you have a drop grade in each category, which again was spelled out in the syllabus on the first day, and I have referenced that to you several times. But now you're really seeing that. And don't forget, you had that one redo for your Word assignments as well. And now, looks like we have one more category here, which is our grader category. Now, look at this. It says these are 20 points apiece, and there's going to be 5 of them, not 12, not 20, but 5, and one drop grade. And here is where we're really talking about not so much the graders, but the badges, right? The badges. Let me kind of show you a little bit more about what I mean. Let's see if I can pause this for a moment. Here I am in My IT Lab, and we're talking about your syllabus where it says the My IT Grader projects. Now, it also says, and we're going to talk about this, the Calculate Your Grade with Excel projects. Okay? When I look at My IT Lab, what we have is 4 workshops, and a required badge project. And this is, as you know from the first time you did this word badge, this is a grader, right? If I click on that, I just clicked on word badge, look at that, it's a grader. It is actually a grader. That's the name of the tool to Pearson. I do not want you to get confused with a tool that we are using in class. Back in, I want to say it was Word Workshop 3, I introduced you to this concept of the grader because I did not want this grader to be a shock to you when you first started trying to earn your badge, right? In other words, if the first time you ever used a grader was when you were doing this for this required project, you would have been shocked and overwhelmed. So I introduced this tool to you just like I introduced simulators to you back in the beginning, and we're learning the ebook and all. I didn't want to dump the grader in there as just another tool that was being thrown at you on the first day of class. So part of the organization of the class is that as we work through, and again, roundabout Word Workshop 3, and it depends on the class, I introduced this tool of the grader. And you know, because we have done this in so many classes now, that you submit your work and into this to get immediate feedback. In fact, at a certain point in Excel, I said, check it every 5 or 10, see how steps that you've completed, see how you're doing, and come get some candy for it, right? This is when we're inside these chapters for your benefit. No points. That's been on there from day one. What about these though? Is that for no points for your benefit? Is that what that says? I don't think so. That is required. You know, because you did that. You've done one of these. And you're going to do one of these again. You're going to do one when we finish Excel. See, we don't have tests in this class. So in essence, this project serves as your test. So you'll do the badge again when you finish Excel. And guess what? Again when you finish PowerPoint. Now, these are 3. There are only 3 of these projects. So according to my syllabus, how did I come up with 5? Because what I'm telling you is that there are 3 of them that are graders. And you know there's the midterm calculate your grade with Excel project, and now this NearFinal calculate your grade with Excel project. And so using the 3 graders and the 2 calculate your grade projects, that makes 5. And one of those will be your drop grade. Okay? Now, I do want to go ahead and talk about the grader for a moment. And let me pause this again. You know I was going to pause it and do this, but let's do it together. I'm going to come back to pause. I'm looking at my grades. If I scroll up, content, recall that this is where we opened the syllabus a moment ago. Here is that schedule. You also have a printed copy of this schedule. I find it easier, if you saw that, I find it easier to download it and keep it handy because I reference it so much. I would assume you do too. It lets you know what's going on in the class. This is something I email right before we start for the semester so that you know before the class even starts, this is what we're doing. You know, our class started Wednesday. Pause opens to you on Monday. If you even looked a little bit, you probably ran across this. But again, this was something we talked about in class. So, gosh, we're already in November when we're doing this video. There was the word. Remember, look at all that hard work you've done. Oh my gosh. Oh, there was that badge. That was your first badge that you did. The required assignment. Remember that? Seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? At the start of October, you did the midterm calculate your grade activity. Goodness, then you started into Excel. There's Excel chapter 2. Here's Excel 3, references, named ranges, that type of thing. There's right before Halloween, charts, and I hope you like the charts. Charts are nice. And as homework, you're going to do your badge. Now, here's what I want to tell you about this badge. It covers chapters 1 through 4, so it's not stepping through a single chapter. It also is not covering every single page of all 4 chapters. What it means is that you're going to find the techniques of how to do something in those 4 chapters. Remember that your book is digital. Remember that it is searchable. And so if you do not know how to complete a step, then you can search your book. Okay, and then you're working ahead for the next two next two PowerPoint chapters. And then here we are today. So I'll talk to you probably in an upcoming class meeting before you see this video more about that grader project. But just wanted to point that out because you'll do a third one for PowerPoint, right? Okay, so here we are today doing our Excel activity. And I'll also introduce to you the SLO study tool. Okay? So many things going on, all right here in your schedule. So important. Okay. At this point, you have filled in your grades for the Word case, the Excel case, and you've guesstimated your PowerPoint case. Double check your formulas. And we've talked about how the drop grade is not yet incorporated. Verify our percentage. Yeah. And now we're ready, as we just did that big prelude, to talk about our badges. So what do we know? We know we have 1 badge there. We're going to have 5 projects total. We already have 1, but we're also going to have a blank line, just blank row, just like we have up here. So how do we insert blank rows? Press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because remember, I'm going to add a blank row. Excel badge. PowerPoint badge. Midterm project. NearFinal project. Which of these grades do we know at this point? Well, I'm going to select cells B77 through B81, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the yellow. In fact, actually, we know our badge, don't we? So I'm going to take the yellow off of that as well. Now, what you know about the Excel badge grades, first of all, is that they're all 20 points. Each one of these is 20 points. Select 20 points. The other thing that you know is that these badge grader projects, these required badge graders, let me go back to my syllabus here. What do we know about those badges? My IT lab grader projects, there's the 3 that I was just telling you about, are pass-fail. I give you a very large window. All you have to do is get within 30 points of 100. If you can get within 30 percentage points of a perfect score, you get all the points. Remember how we did this with Word? If not, then you do get a 0. So here's what we know. We know that our grade for Excel badge is either going to be 100, perfect 20, or else it's going to be 0. Here's the other thing that you understand really well about these graders now. There's no reason in the world not to get a perfect score, because if you do something wrong, then you fix it and upload the file again. You have really hopefully done that a lot as we've worked in class, so that should be second nature to you now. So you search the book, you figure out how to do it. If you did it wrong, you go back to the book, search it again, figure out how to do it, watch the video. It might not be asking for the exact same font or for the exact same theme, but it will be asking for a theme. It will be asking for a font. And so when you find the steps to do that, you're using your critical thinking skills to take those how-to steps and apply it. And that's the point of these badges. And so I think everybody probably got a 20 out of 20 on that Excel badge. Now, you have your score for your midterm project. this is not a pass-fail. So whatever score you got for that, you would have to go to pause. You may have to return to assessment and grades. And I know that one's going to be towards the bottom. I have to really scroll down. There's all my grader grades. And I got an 18 out of 20 on my Calculate Your Midterm. So I'm going to put that in. I don't know my NearFinal project grade. So now my paint bucket still remembers no fill. So I need to go ahead and find yellow. And I'm going to hope I get at least an 18 out of 20 again. And for my PowerPoint badge, I don't know for sure, so I'm going to color that yellow. We haven't done that yet, but I really think we can all get a 20 out of 20. Look at your formulas. That doesn't look right. Cell B82, I need to correct that. I made changes, so press the Enter key. Again, if you make changes, press Enter, not Cancel. I'm going to verify this formula, and it looks good. Save. Make sure you're saving. Wow, we've done a lot of hard work. And at this point, we have a pretty good understanding of what our grade is. In my example, it looks like I have about an 85. 598, divided by 700, converted to a percentage, looks like about 85. Now, do you remember how we came up with this? If you click in cell B84 and then click on your formula bar, Excel is showing you it's got this subtotal, it's got that subtotal. I'm going to make sure as I look up through here that it's got all my subtotals. That looks good. That looks good. Uh-oh. It's got my bonus points, but it does not have my SLO test. So I'm looking at this part, but remember, I'm actively modifying that formula way down towards the bottom of the spreadsheet. So what I need to do is I need to include this cell that's not, it's been overlooked. So at the very end of my formula, I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to tell it to bring that in. So my formula needs to be updated to include cell B10. If you don't understand what I'm doing, we're going to repeat that again when we do the next half of the formula. I am modifying cell C84. I'm going to click in this cell. I'm modifying cell C84. I am scrolling to look at the rest of my spreadsheet, but that does not change the fact that I am modifying the formula in cell C84. As I review the formula, I see that I am missing a value. I'm going to add the value. And hit Enter on my keyboard. The formula in cell C84 now ends with plus C10. The formula in cell B84 now ends in plus B10. I can verify this is correct, and it is. No change, cancel. Save. Not out of the woods yet. Not out of the woods, because we still have a little bit of a problem in that we haven't incorporated our drop grades. Here we have 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, and we said that of these 5 grades, 1 would be dropped, right? We need to drop 1. All right. When we drop a grade, we always drop the lowest grade, right? I know that sometimes you're supposed to tell your teacher what grade you want them to drop. Well, what are you going to do? Tell them to drop your highest grade, your second to the lowest grade? You're going to tell them to drop your lowest grade. The problem for us is that at this particular point, we don't know what that lowest grade is going to be. You know, I could easily say, you know, modify this formula and subtract 18 because that's my lowest grade. But what if, oh goodness, what if on this one I totally mess up and I get a 15? I would have to come in and change that. I want Excel to figure out which of these scores is the lowest. I want Excel to do that work for me. Let's think. Can Excel identify the lowest number in a list of numbers? I think you learned a formula, a function that does that. It could find the highest number, which was the max, and it could find the lowest number, which was the min. So why don't I tell Excel, after you sum up these numbers, subtract the minimal, the min number, the lowest number. Select cell B82, click at the end of the formula. All formulas start with an equal sign. Only one. We're not going to type another one. They start with an equal sign. Then you have the function. The function is sum, open parenthesis. What are you summing? That's the argument. Close parenthesis, minus, our function is min, uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter. Immediately, no space, immediately followed by that parenthesis. What is the range of cells? What is the argument? In this case, B76 through B80, close parenthesis. Let's double check. Equals sum, parenthesis, B76 through B80, close parenthesis, minus min, open parenthesis, B76 through B80, close parenthesis. Isn't that neat? It subtracted that 18. How can I check that? Select these. Here's the actual sum, 96. Well, 96, I'll buy that 96 minus 18 is about 78. Sounds good. Let's do that one more time to get the practice. Select cell C82. We're currently telling Excel all formulas start with an equal sign. Sum C76 through C80. Click at the end, minus the formula, or I'm sorry, the function is min, open parenthesis, C76 through C80. Now wait a minute, Dr. McGrory, you might be saying, all these numbers are the same. How can it find a minimum? My response to you is, what difference does it make? If I subtract this first 20, or this last 20, or this middle 20, or this 20, or that 20, what difference does it make? So we're just simply telling Excel, and typically Excel is going to subtract the first 20. I don't know for sure, nor do I care, because the result is going to be the same. When I subtract the lowest and all the numbers are equal, it just simply needs to subtract one of them. If I select all these, we counted before, that's 100, and now I see 80. Okay, let's do that again. Now we need to do it for our cases. Cell B73, it should currently have the correct formula. I'm going to click at the end, minus the min of those exact same values. Do I believe that that's right? Hopefully, if you have any kind of, errors in there, you need to fix those. 209 down to 194. Now, for practice, I could have you keep repeating this pattern. Go to C73, minus min, open parenthesis, C60 through C71. Oops. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. Right, because that's 240, and now we're at 220. But let's be a little smarter when we do this next one. For the simulators, I'm going to click in cell B57. Formula, double check, it looks right. Minus min, open parenthesis, B44 through B55, close parenthesis. Now, before I edit this formula in cell C57, you got to remember that Excel is pretty smart, and Excel recognizes patterns. And the pattern that it sees is that you're summing and subtracting everything in this column and doing the same over here. Can't I simply select cell B57, put my mouse over that special fill handle, and simply copy that formula over here to C57? I'm going to look, even though you click down here, Excel people are always looking in the formula bar, because what I would look at is to make sure that my relative references update. This formula says add up the column of numbers above me relative to where the formula is positioned. In the same way that this formula says relative to this cell, select these cells above it. The formulas in relationship to where they are located are the same. And so Excel is smart enough to recognize that pattern and make that update for you. This is going to help you to be faster and more accurate. Let's do that again. In cell B41, we have to remember to subtract the min B28 through B39. I'm going to make sure I go back and select that cell and copy it over. Now, you may at this point be saying to yourself, can't I just copy these whole formulas, copy and paste them? Yeah, sometimes you can. You'll need to double check, verify that it did understand your intention, and make any corrections. As we have inserted rows, we have seen that sometimes Excel gets it perfectly, and then sometimes we had to make updates. So troubleshooting formulas and functions is a big part of working with Excel, but we don't mind doing it because of the work that it saves us in the long run. You don't believe me? All you have to do is go back through here and say, okay, so that's the last formula, right? The quizzes, and now I've got everything in there. Let's save that. If you don't believe in the work, okay, that it's saving you, let's do this. And this is very much a management function. At this point, my grand total is a 90 with all those drop grades. And don't forget, I gave you kind of your one exception. That moved my letter grade up 5 points. The final grade in the class for me moved 5 points because of that drop grade. Yours may have moved a different number. It depends on how drastic the grade that was dropped was. If you dropped a perfect score, it probably didn't move you too much at all. If you dropped a 0 like I did, yeah, it had a big impact, okay? And that's because the reason I set the course up that way is because I understand people have bad days. I understand that sometimes you get confused. I understand that work sometimes comes in and comes into play. And rather than making you go back and do double the work, where you're going forward at the same time as you're trying to go backwards, which 9 times out of 10 is a recipe for failure. I've seen it too many times. I've been teaching, 20 years easy. 25 probably, who knows. Anyway, I've seen it way too many times. You can't keep up because now you've doubled your workload trying to do what you missed in the past as well as going forward in the present, right? So you have these drop grades that were identified before the first day of class. Okay, very well organized. So when you look at this, if you don't believe this saves you work, notice I'm up to a 90. Here's where I would come in, and as a business person, in any spreadsheet that I had, I would come in and say, you know what, best case scenario, I think I can easily get 9s on all these assignments, for these quizzes. I bet I could. Of course, I think I'm going to get 10s on those. And you know what, for these simulators, yeah, Uh, Maybe I'll change the PowerPoint Simulator 2 to a 10. I think that's my best case scenario. And you know what? I think I'm going to get 19s. This is my best case scenario. I really think I can achieve these things. I really think I can get a 20 out of 20, a 20 out of 20 on this NearFinal project. That would raise me up to a 92. Okay, well, what if I don't? Now, I haven't saved anything. I saved only earlier. I have not saved. I'm not going to, not yet. What if, worst case scenario? I mean, I do terrible. I fail every quiz. I failed PowerPoint 1, 2, 3, 4 quiz. I take them, but I just make half the points. Goodness, I think in class, I think I'll still get 10 out of 10s, but you know what? I've got some work things. I don't feel real well. I can see where I might miss a day. What if I get a 0 on one of my in class because I can't show up that day? How about the simulators? You know, I hope I do well, but I don't know. Sometimes those things are harder than I think they're going to be, have more time than I can put into it. Maybe I just make 7s. This is worst case scenario. This best case scenario, worst case scenario. Maybe on my PowerPoint cases, goodness, I don't know. What if I just do like 15s on all of those? Kind of my worst case scenario. What if my PowerPoint badge, I just run out of steam, it's the end of the semester, and I don't get that 70% or above? And if I don't get 70% or above, I get a 0, right? That'd be terrible. What if that's what I got? Well, worst case scenario, oh, I failed the class. No, you didn't. You got a B, and you can see that immediately. You see the benefit of this? There's nothing to stop you from doing this type of spreadsheet for every class that you're enrolled in. You know what? At the beginning of the semester, sit down, plan out a spreadsheet. Now, every course is different, and you could ask your instructor about the math that they use to calculate your grade. You know, in ours, let's see. I'm going to go up here, method of evaluation. Look at that. Right? Explained right there. I bet a lot of your teachers do something like this, right? Okay, even look, point values. You could just add up your points and know immediately where you stand. Okay, if you did that at the start of the semester, maybe even a day or two before you get the syllabus and you sit there and plan out your grades, you would know exactly where you stand in that class all the time. Now, you might be saying to me, well, but PAWS does that. PAWS calculates it for me, right? Does it? Does it let you go in and say, I know my best case scenario? Does PAWS let you do that? Does PAWS let you come up here and say, here's my best case scenario here? You could what if this through, you know, as you get to the midterm, you could do that. And PAWS oftentimes is looking at all your grades. You know, when we did your midterm grade, and I'm going to go back to that just to show you. Here's Anna Apple's midterm. We only looked at the assignments that we had completed. If we were maybe one grade shy, we went ahead and put it in there. We didn't look at however many, I'm sorry, what's the points again? We didn't look at 675 points. Instead, at the midterm, we only looked at 220 points. And you know what? We didn't get into drop grades because it would not make sense to start throwing out grades when we only have 4 in one category. It's going to give you a false impression to do drop grades when you have so few assignments. So when PAWS is in here saying that it's dropping a grade, this is not going to give you an accurate reflection of your grade. Why not take a little time? Put this into Excel. Know exactly where you stand. Every time you complete an assignment, just go into Excel, add it in there. You could do that, okay? This is about you taking responsibility for your paycheck in that class. Okay, now, I've got 2 spreadsheets going. This is my midterm one. I'm going to close it. I just don't want to cause confusion. As a couple final steps here, we're not quite done yet. Please scroll all the way back up to cell A2. And instead of this being my midterm grade, this is my near final grade. Press enter. Right? Save that and close it. Cannot emphasize this enough. Close it. You know, the reason you oftentimes do not want to close it is because you cannot fully remember where you left your work. And if you're organizing them well, creating folders, knowing exactly it's on this flash drive, you know, this is exactly where you have it. If you're using your personal computer, maybe you have it in your My Documents folder. But wherever it is, you got to know where it's at, right? Okay. We know our folder. Go ahead and open your folder so that you can see it, right? Now, in pause, we're looking at grades. Go all the way to the top. Assessment, assignments. Scroll to the very bottom. Assessment, assignments, scroll to the very bottom. Please verify that you are on page 2 of 2. If not, need to change to page 2 of 2. Here's our drop box. Calculate your near final grade with Excel. Click on that. Scroll down. Add a file. It's going to come from my computer. And what I like to do, you can certainly click there to upload. What I like to do, I know with great certainty this is the file I'm submitting. Add. Submit. Done. Okay, so I hope this video helps you with this project. I know that in class you were not able to complete all of it. By submitting it, you'll have that file. We'll know where you are in it, but then again, you do need to complete it for homework. So it looks like this video is right at an hour and a half, but with our quiz, of course, at the start of class, which covers, well, we wouldn't have a quiz today. That's right, because we're doing the project. So, right at an hour and a half. I hope you were able to finish it. If not, you do need to finish it for homework, and you do need to submit it into your Dropbox assignments, okay? Into the correct one. On page 2, down at the bottom, you need to submit it here. Thank you, and that concludes our video for today.